We don't often think of composers as architects, but what if one of them didn't just write music? What if he actually designed the very structure of sound that would define an entire era?
Just think about that for a second. Music feels so emotional, right? So flowing. But what if its real power, its lasting impact, actually comes from a kind of elegant, logical architecture? We're going to dig into how one man, maybe more than any other, drew up the blueprints for what we call classical music.
And that genius?
Franz Joseph Haydn. Now, you've probably heard of Mozart and Beethoven. They tend to steal the spotlight. But Haydn was the foundation they both built upon. He was, in a very real way, music's great and kind of unsung architect.
Haydn's life was just a remarkable journey. He was the son of a wheelwright. His raw talent got him out of his small village and into a prestigious choir. And after some years struggling as a freelancer, he landed a gig with the super wealthy Esterházy family. And this wasn't just a job. It turned into a 30-year incubator for his genius that eventually made him a world-famous celebrity.
People started calling him Papa Haydn, and it wasn't just because he was a kind, friendly guy. He was literally the musical patriarch of his time. He was a generous mentor who guided and deeply influenced the next generation of giants, guys you might have heard of, like Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and Ludwig van Beethoven.
So how did he get so good? How did he become this huge deal? Well, for nearly 30 years, Haydn had the unbelievable resources of the Esterházy family at his fingertips. We're talking about his own private orchestra and even an opera house. It was his personal musical laboratory, a place where he was forced to constantly create new stuff, which let him experiment, tinker, and innovate on a scale that almost no other composer could even dream of. And the single most important thing to come out of that laboratory was the perfection of a musical blueprint. Now, Haydn didn't invent it from scratch, but he's the one who took it, perfected it, and made it the gold standard. We call it sonata form.
Okay, first let's clear something really important up. Sonata form is not the same thing as a sonata. A sonata is the whole piece, with multiple parts or movements. Sonata form is the architectural plan for just one of those movements. It's less a set of rigid rules and more like a powerful, time-tested formula for creating musical drama.
And honestly, the best way to wrap your head around this blueprint is to think of it like a 3-act play. Seriously, it's a structure perfectly designed to introduce characters, build up some conflict, and then deliver a really satisfying ending.
It really is that simple. You've got the exposition, that's where we meet our characters. Then you have the development, that's where all the drama and conflict happens. And finally, the recapitulation, where everything gets resolved. Let's break that down. All right, Act 1, the exposition. The curtain goes up, and the music introduces its main character, the first theme. It's usually strong, easy to remember, and we hear it in the piece's home key. Think of the home key as its comfort zone, its home turf, where everything feels stable and right. But then, a second character shows up, a contrasting theme, maybe a little softer, a little more lyrical. And here's the key. It's presented in a different key, a totally new musical neighborhood. That contrast immediately creates a little bit of tension. All the pieces are on the board, and the story is ready to kick off. And that brings us to Act 2, the development. This is where the composer just goes wild. Those themes we just met, they get broken into pieces, smashed together, and twisted into new shapes. The music goes on a journey, traveling through all these unfamiliar and unstable keys. It creates suspense and tension. This is the real heart of the conflict. Which finally leads us to the big finale. Act 3, the recapitulation. Order is restored. Our original themes come back, but with one massive critical change. That second theme, the one that was in a foreign key, now it's played in the stable home key. It's like the second character has finally come home. The conflict is over, and you get this powerful feeling of arrival and satisfaction. But here's the really brilliant part. This blueprint wasn't a prison. It was a launch pad. Haydn perfected it, and then he passed the torch to his friends and students, Mozart and Beethoven, who took that same structure and used it to say completely different things. It's just amazing when you see how 3 totally different personalities used the exact same tool. Haydn, the trailblazer, he used the form for cleverness, for logic and wit. Mozart, the ultimate dramatist, he filled the form with all the passion and emotion of an opera. His themes feel like characters singing on a stage. And then you have Beethoven, the titan. He took Haydn's elegant structure and blew it up to an epic scale.
turning the development into a heroic struggle and the resolution into a glorious, hard-won victory. So when you step back and look at the big picture, Haydn's legacy is just immense. His work wasn't just about writing nice tunes. It was about creating the very language, the grammar, that an entire generation of composers would use to speak. I mean, they call him the father of the symphony and the father of the string quartet for a reason. He standardized them. He mastered sonata form, giving everyone else the blueprint for the classical style. He mentored the absolute greats who came after him. And he filled his music with humor and folk tunes, proving that genius-level structure could also be a whole lot of fun. Which really brings us back to the main idea here. The next time you're listening to a symphony by Mozart or one by Beethoven, listen for the architecture. Listen for that three-act play, the introduction of ideas, the dramatic conflict, and the satisfying return home. Because when you do, you'll be hearing the echoes of their teacher, their mentor, and their friend. You'll be hearing the work of Papa Haydn, maybe the most important architect in the entire history of sound. And that's something worth listening for.